gosh, the support that Rotary has given Sacred in the past year. This club, Overland Park South and Richmond, Missouri Club, has given to Sacred $10,000 last year. So, man, you can't get much more support than hometown support for us. So we are a sexually abused children's relief endeavor. I've set things out on the table for you that explain about Sacred. Also, there's an application there and a brochure. And that's going to give you information about our organization. But today is going to be a little bit different. This is going to be a first presentation that I've ever made to share what it is to be a victim of child sexual abuse. And I'm going to tell you the story of why and how Sacred ever even came into being. So at first I'm going to use a couple of notes, then I'll start walking around. June 7th, 2006, my first grandson was being born in Springfield, Missouri. We lived in New Jersey at that time. And I already had 3 grandchildren. So this was but our first grandson, so you guys know how important that grandson is. So my husband was in Springfield, Missouri with his daughter for the birth of Brendan. I stayed in New Jersey. On the day Brendan was born, I received a phone call from John's oldest daughter. And you'll find that I will refer to them as our children, not just my stepdaughter or whatever. So our oldest daughter called me, extremely hypersensitive. And it took me about 30 minutes to get her to calm down and tell me what had happened. And that morning, her husband, who was an over-the-road independent truck driver, had Sarah, my 6-year-old granddaughter. At that time, there was a 6-year-old daughter, 4-year-old, and 2-year-old granddaughter. The 6-year-old granddaughter was in the truck with Mom and her father. Dad got out of the vehicle for a few minutes, and Sarah leaned over to Mom, and she said, "Mommy, Daddy has been hurting me." And she said, "What?" She said, "Daddy is touching me and hurting me." And he came back into the car. Allison then asked him, "Sarah just told me you're touching her. Are you touching her?" And he actually admitted that he's a bad daddy, good daddy, and bad daddy has done some bad things. And it took a process of about an hour of talking between father, mother, and Sarah to unwrap the sexual abuse that this man was placing on my 6-year-old granddaughter. Then Mom, being emotional as any of us would, got out of the truck, took Sarah, and started running down the street. Some stranger saw her running down the street with my 6-year-old and stopped and said, "Can I help you?" And she said, "Yes, please, call the police." Leavenworth County Sheriff is who facilitated that area. So the Leavenworth Sheriff's Department showed up. Again, taking quite some time, and this stranger kept Sarah and our daughter in the car. The Sheriff's Department came. They talked with Sarah. They talked with Allison. Sarah was then taken to Children's Mercy Hospital downtown. And for you that don't understand what happened at that place, the physical exam on a child is much more invasive than your wife goes through when she goes for her annual exam. It is an internal exam of all parts of a child to determine anything that has happened to that child. Upon his arrest, he stated, "You will never find a piece of evidence on her. Guaranteed." He's right. There wasn't a piece of evidence on that child. Not a single piece. From there, Sarah was then sent to a child advocacy center, which you will see, that's who we support, our child advocacy centers. She was sent to Sunflower House, and a lot of times Leavenworth, Kansas, though they currently do have a child advocacy center, goes to Sunflower House, for which we are extremely grateful. At Sunflower House, they do a forensic interview. That is not a physical interview. It is a trained forensic specialist, talks with the children. This happened after several days. In the meantime, the police have gone into Allison's home. They've removed the bedding. They've removed the computer. They've removed pretty much anything that could be in there. During this investigation, it was discovered through Sarah's, at 6 years old, sharing, she had been violated in the barn, which was just down from the house. She had been violated in her bunk bed with her 4-year-old sister in the room. She had been violated in the shower. She had been violated in the wedding bed. And many of these happened when Mom was in the house. So, Sarah goes to the forensic interview. The policy is there is an investigative room where the child is interviewed by one person. This interview included my 4-year-old granddaughter, Emily, and Sarah, because Rachel was only 2. So at that time, Sarah shared very intimate details of what had happened. I later went with Allison to the prosecuting attorney's office and watched that forensic interview, so I'm extremely aware of what this man did. This man touched my child. That is an unforgivable act, that a child is touched. So Emily was unaware. This is Sarah. This is my granddaughter today. She posted this on Facebook. At the interview, Emily was unable to verify anything. And oftentimes, children that age may have been violated, but they don't have the ability to share that information. The 2-year-old certainly did not either, but she was not interviewed. At that forensic interview, they finally said to Sarah, "Sarah, why are you telling now?" And she said, "I've had enough." Not a typical response from a 6-year-old. As I've learned, I have associations now with Jackson County, Leavenworth County, Johnson County, even the state attorney who spoke here has met with me. That is a typical statement of a 13, 14-year-old child, not a 6-year-old child. Now, moving on, that stopped the nightmare of Sarah being violated. Then you go into the court. And children have to testify in front of their abuser. So Sarah's here to testify at a preliminary hearing. Her father's standing right there, sitting in the court. And she has to describe in open court every act he did to her in front of everyone. John flew in for that from New Jersey. It took 3 years when we came to a plea agreement because there was 11 continuances. Because he had court-appointed attorneys, he fired them. He said he was insane, so he was in and out of Larned for evaluations. So I was speaking to the Leavenworth Victims Advocate 2 weeks ago, and I said, you know, we had 11 continuances, and it took us 3 years, and we copped a deal to get Sarah out of the courts. And she said, you got off easy. 11 continuances is nothing these days. Now the good news is, there's a law called Jessica's Law. It came into being after our granddaughter was touched. Jessica Law now, had that been in effect during the time of Sarah's abuse, this man would be in jail for life. It's not the case though. That's not what happened with us. We settled so Sarah would not have to testify. You take a 6-year-old child who's been sexually abused by her father, you wait 3 years and ask her to testify and see what she can do. The fairness of that, and absolutely what she can remember. And at that time, the victim's advocate was counseling her not to get too much help because we didn't want to make the defense attorney think she was being led into saying something. So there's a double-edged sword there for your children. So we took a plea deal. And the story just keeps getting better and better. And this is almost 9 years later. It'll be 9 years this June that this all began. So I will not call him by name because I just don't think he deserves that privilege. In the plea deal, he had to sever all rights to our grandchildren, which of course, once you're in prison, there's no money coming in. So our daughter lost her home. She found out he had tremendous debt that she never even knew about. And she had to move, and she's moved many times. And continues to be somewhat in a victim state. She's now a mother of 4 because she was pregnant when this happened. So she became a single mother of 4 girls. During part of this time, the children came to visit us in New Jersey, and it became quite clear that he had touched every one of my children because their play to actions were inappropriate. So we knew that he had groomed every single child. Sarah may have had the courage to tell it, the others were too young, but their actions and play showed that he had touched them as well. So we did our plea deal, severed parental rights. He's in prison. He, however, had been a prison guard in Leavenworth, and that gives prisoners special privileges. They are held in special places then because they're up to be abused by other prisoners. God forbid that a prison guard would be in jail. So he was in Leavenworth County Jail for 3 years until we settled. Then he was sentenced to Leavenworth. Because of his special ruling of being a prison guard that made him at risk, he was transferred. When a prisoner is transferred out of state, it is not appropriate to tell the victim where your perpetrator is being housed. So we had no right to know where he was in the prison system. John, being very, very diligent, he could just really get into someone and they trust him, and a woman told him where he is. So we now know he's in the state of Maryland. But when he was in Leavenworth, we could track his behavior. It's wonderful. You get someone in there, they're bad people, you can track it. But they leave the state, we have no rights to get that information. So I, again, have been doing due diligence because my granddaughter, Sarah, is 15, and she's scared of when he gets out. I'm scared of when he gets out. I think he's going to come back looking for that little girl he never saw that being born. So I got on the phone and got some more government agencies, found out he still is in Maryland. That was verified because I knew information I wasn't supposed to know. And he has not behaved. So his sentence has been extended. Now, we don't know what he's done to misbehave. We really do not care. But his earliest possibility of getting out is March 30th, 2019. Originally, we had it set up that when Sarah was 18, he would be able to be released. So he has no good behavior. He has no nothing. The earliest is that time. But our granddaughter put this up. Do not keep secrets. So today, after we leave this meeting, my husband and I now have custody. We'll be getting custody of the little girl who was 4 and in the room when all of this was happening, who's never been able to report what he did. Of course, she saw what he did, and we believe he did touch that child as well. And she has not been successful as Sarah. Sarah is a survivor. Sarah is a fighter. I'm going to pass out these papers. If you haven't been to my website, she wrote a story last year, sharing her story about what the impact of what her father has done, what the impact of lack of trust has done for her. She's a straight A student. She's number 3 in a class of 417, and she takes no responsibility for his actions. She is remarkable. Emily is ill. Our Emily is very ill. She's emotionally disturbed. She has attachment disorders. She has rage. I witnessed it for 2 hours this week as she threw herself on the floor and had tantrums and screaming and yelling, and she can be violent. We will now be taking custody of her because her mom can only provide Medicaid for a help. And you have to pay for residential care. Mom can't provide it. We can. So as we leave our meeting today, we will be heading to a court hearing to take legal guardianship of Emily so that we can get her the mental health care that she needs. So when you hear, I have not made this story about what Sacred does. You can look it up and read it. We support children that are sexually abused, who have no one like us who came in and stepped in and took care of our family financially. Many do not. I am getting swamped with cases right now. I've never been swamped like this. Sacred is becoming more and more known. Yesterday, an advocate said Sacred is a breath of fresh air. In 25 years, I've never seen an agency that will give money because a family needs it. And we give money in 24 hours. You make your application, it's read that day, It's approved if it meets criteria, and your check is mailed the next day. And the advocacy centers pay all those needs for the first 30 days of a report, because these people can't think. So we're 9 years into it, and we're still in a freaking nightmare. We still have to deal with them coming out of prison. We still have to deal with the safety of our grandchildren and the mental stability of that mom. These perpetrators look like me. They look like you. They could be sitting right next to you and you won't know it. That's how good they are. They look for their victims, they find the right victims, they groom them, they get their trust, and this one happened to like his own children. It's not an unusual case, actually. And we were blessed that he was arrested and never let out of jail. Almost 90% don't go to jail. It's not enough evidence. So we are blessed that he's in jail. And trust me, this grandmother will be ready when he comes out. There's one thing you don't ever do with me. I may yell and scream about one of my kids or grandkids, but you don't touch my children. Not ever. So that is the story of how we came to Sacred. John and I had decided that we don't stay victims. We turn something horrific into something positive because we want to provide something for those who have nothing. So there's statistics listed for you there. Our application process is there. A summary, I included in this printout just for you all, 2014 goals and what we accomplished. And we accomplished a lot of those 2014 goals because of Rotary. If it hadn't been for Rotary, and some of you who still follow me on Facebook for Sacred, who still send me money, you are making a difference every day in these children's lives. In 3 weeks, I sent out $6,000 to 2 families. That's a lot of money. I take no salary. No one takes salary. It will never be the case. So that is what we do, and I need you to realize that just because they report, that journey's just beginning. It's never going to go away. Not ever. Not ever. So thank you so much for all you've done for us for the past year. We really appreciate it.
Carol, are you able to take questions?
Sure.
Any questions for Carol?
Okay, so how do we help? As individuals, how do we help?
As individuals, it's a very difficult task to help because it's such a confidential process. If you see those applications, you'll see that there's no information given on the individual. I will not accept anything that shows family name, address, or anything. Everything's by case number and by advocacy. The way to help us truly is through money. We have our largest fundraiser coming up in May. I'll be sending out save the date cards. It is an art and wine auction, and it is hilariously fun. And I'm bringing in original art. John is bringing in special wines. We've got private wine tastings that will be in Napa. But we need, right now, I only have $10,000 in my Sacred account. That's it. And I have 3 cases coming in to me today and tomorrow. And my average case is $2,500 per family. And they have a right to reapply in 30 days if that doesn't hold them. And sometimes it doesn't. And we have cases where the perpetrator runs away and can't be found. I mean, there's all kinds of reasons for it. And so I wish I could tell you come over and help me, but I've got to take the phone call. I've got to hear the story. I have to fill out the paperwork. And it's a protection of children. And so the best way you can do it is to support us. The other thing that you can do is please get me to places to speak. I have not gone any place, and I have never shared this story today. Never have I shared our side of the story. And I only did that for you all because of everything you've done for us. And I also think it's important to understand the true story of victims and that it doesn't just stop. It goes on forever. The other thing is find me places to talk. You know, find me places to submit grants. I will not apply for a government grant. I refuse to. There's too much criteria that must be followed. If you have to serve this many boys, this many girls, this much minority, I won't do that. I will serve whomever has the need. I don't care what color they are. I don't care where they live. The other thing I do want to add to you is in the past 6 months, half of my victims have been boys. And over half of those victims of boys were perpetuated by women. And that is not something that we think about. We think about men attacking girls, and that is not the case. We, women, do the same thing. And we do it to little girls, and we do it to little boys, and all of these victims, they all look like us, or the perpetrators. And one of our best friends says, I still can't believe, and he called him by name, did that to Sarah. He looked and seemed like such a nice guy. And I said, well, sorry, he's not. He's a son of a bitch.
Call it. I love it.
Yes.
Carol, so you're a 501c3.
Yes.
Are you looking for family foundations?
We're looking for, most of our Kansas City Royals gave us a grant this year, so we were thrilled with that. That was a big coup for us. We are also now, there's a vetting process through the Greater Kansas City Community Foundation. We've been vetted through them, so we are on their website, Grow Your Giving, and it's a huge profile of us, and it'll show you all of our financials, and you'll see it's been a huge change. I've been actively working it for a year, and you will see huge changes in the past year as to previous years, because this is all I do, nothing else. So we're looking for foundations, we're looking for anything that grants funding.
Do you currently get family foundation money?
I am now through the Greater Kansas City Community. I've gotten 2 checks through their foundation. Foundations are going there. Business people, corporations go through there to look for us, and they send us checks.
Okay. And another question, do you have a board?
We do have a board, and my newest board member is not on there. Her name is Dawn Iddings. She is a garment executive. She doesn't really like it to go out there. But we have a member group, a board of 5. And as soon as an application comes through, I'm clear on it. The apps are sent electronically to the board. They get a note from me, I need this answered immediately. And they answer usually within 3 hours. I get an approval. And I can call the advocate, say, and then the next morning the check's in the mail. That's how it works.
So just to understand the framework or how it flows, you get the referrals from the child advocacy center?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And I just
People
acquired.
don't come directly to you?
No one comes to me, no one meets me. Now I have had notes sent to me through the advocates because they don't need to know me. They just need to know Sacred. I am a non-entity as far as this is concerned. I'm just a person who streams it through. We just secured a new CAC out of Columbia yesterday. She called, it's called Rainbow House. They serve 10 counties. That increases the serving counties to 160 that Sacred is now available to serve. It's going to grow, it's going to grow, it's going to grow.
And Carol, the 160 counties, how do you get those counties, and how
Well,
does that?
like the new one we just received yesterday, it's called Rainbow House. They serve 10 counties, so 10 counties come to them. Sunflower House serves, I believe, 9 counties. I'm not exactly sure. CPC Downtown Kansas City serves Jackson County and 4 other counties. So child advocacy centers serve X amount of counties, and those counties go to them. We are currently working a lot with some rural CACs, and God bless them. They are, one of them is an RV mobile unit, and they drive 400 miles a day to treat these children, because they don't just see sexually abused children, they see all abused children. Sacred just particularly treats and serves sexually abused children because of our life. And so the smaller ones, some of them don't have a freestanding building even, and the turnover is high for these advocates. And executive director turnover is about every 1.5 years. So it's a complete training process over and over and over again. I will tell you that Brad is working with me, and we're developing a training presentation that will be sent out to both states. That is going to be a constant training facilitator on the advocates to help them understand better how to fill it out. But normally I'm on the phone one-on-one with those advocates first time through, and we go through and fill it out together.
And so like the Race Rainbow Center, are you calling them and saying?
They call me.
They call you? And,
They call me.
And how do they know to call you?
I send information through the state organization, the state heads of each one, and then they are to filter it through. It's kind of like anything else, any organization. Everything's from the top down. So if the top of the organization is running well, the stuff just gets spread down. So it gets sent to executive directors. If those executive directors are not too overwhelmed, then they'll pass it on. If they're too overwhelmed, it doesn't get passed on. So I will go, though, and try to speak to any place, anywhere, anytime, because it's the only way we're going to help our children.
Sure.
So the individuals do like donations?
Individuals send us checks.
Okay.
We get checks. You can donate online. You can just go straight to our website, and there's donate right there. You just push the button, and the money goes through PayPal into our account immediately. We don't, and then we get a note. So I do send out. Some of you know this. I am an old school woman, and if you support my charity and what we do, you will get a letter, a note back from me. I handwrite every single person that contributes to me, because every single person that contributes to Sacred has saved a part of a child's life. And $5, you may not think that's much, but $5 adds up. And so we appreciate anything and everything that we get. And please understand that everything we get, except for paying for what I have to do, goes to our children. There will never be a salary given in this organization. Just can't allow that to ever happen. It's not what we're here for. Any other questions?
All right. Anything else for the good of the order? If not, we'll stand adjourned.
Yeah.